Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Ben Creech, and welcome to Daydreamers, a podcast about people's dreams and passions. Today, I am with Jake Mancill of Ink Scratch. Oh man, I messed that up. Ink Scratch Studios. Alright, that's a good start of the podcast. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. No, like I said, it's a sleepy Saturday.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, rain coming down.
Oh
Perfect.
yeah, we're getting pounded over here. Yeah.
Yeah, in Texas, good old Texas. So how did you come up with the studio name?
Well, I mean, as you can see, probably from my work on, that I posted on the Instagram, the vast majority of my work is it's done with ink, ink pen,
Oh,
and anybody who takes a good look also will notice that my style is very messy, and part of me likes it that way. And so when you if you scribble really furiously on art paper with different types of pen, depending on what type you're using, you can actually, if you're not careful, you can tear the paper. Um, but sometimes though, you actually want to create a really stout line in the paper, just as as an artistic element, especially if you doing using the way I am, where you're using it to shade and create like cross hatching. Like if you see lines intersecting to like add shadows and value to a piece, then you are essentially scratching the paper, ink scratch. And also, it wasn't taken on Instagram, so that was kind of the only major criteria for that. But I did find it fitting. It kind of captured my main medium and a large, I think, aspect of my style.
you kind of have like a surface, like if I can't even pronounce it, but kind of just like out there kind of style, where you
Yeah, surrealist. Yeah,
surrealist. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
yeah, and it's interesting they mentioned that, because that's um, an element of my own work that I never really um, perceived or really even verbalized into like the last couple years, I would say. Um, and I would say, once that term kind of came to me, because I'd heard the term, but I've never really thought about it applied to my own stuff. But it's when I had the thought of it, it was very strangely fitting. Just these otherworldly kind of things. Some of them make more sense than others. Especially my landscapes. That's pretty down to earth, and I do enjoy doing those pieces. But then you have other stuff where it's like an alien, where their face is like some like 52 faceted polygon. It's definitely macabre, to say the least.
Yeah. So I'm looking at your Instagram right now. Um,
Hmm.
I'm seeing it. It kind of reminds me of kind of like a Adult Swim in a way.
Adult Swim,
Yeah.
yeah. Actually, I take that as a compliment. That's actually because Adult Swim is, as I'm sure you know, very um, focused on promoting just weird stuff. Again, some of that very surrealist art with, kind of more on like the trippy stoner art kind of side of it, but surreal nonetheless. And and that's not to say that it's lacking for quality. Some of it's just inane, like stoner cartoons onto an animation studio program. But other stuff is very lovingly and painstakingly animated to be that way. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't draw some form of inspiration from that art or art like it.
Oh, that I just remembered some of the cartoons, but it's on Cartoon Network. Like
Mhm.
Flapjack, The Adventures of Flapjack, and
Oh my, oh god,
Chowder.
that oh man, those two shows. Oh yeah, no, I grew up watching those.
Yeah,
Was
they had like
very,
similar styles in some of the frames and stuff. Now I'm remembering.
yeah. Well, they were made by the same studio, correct?
Yeah, I don't know. I
I mean,
think
their
so.
styles are so similar. It's hard
Yeah,
to. I would be hard pressed to believe otherwise.
yeah, definitely. I know it's
Yeah,
Cartoon Network, so I wouldn't
I
be
think I
surprised.
think of the two of those shows, Marvelous Misadventures was definitely just the like why was this made for kids style. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very. I go back on YouTube every so often, and I go back and watch compilations of clips from that show that are supposed to be like the compilation itself is reasons Flapjack should not have been a kids show. Um, and
It
not wrong,
actually,
but
gave me a nightmare. I remember. Like I forgot what episode it was, but
right.
there was like a very nightmare filled episode. And I was like, God damn. I guess it's
Well, the all shows, SpongeBob really has kind of um, drifted in that very like just surrealist, like just disturbing to be disturbing kind of really pushing the envelope sort of content in the last say 4 or 5 years, something like that. Basically, a couple seasons after the movie was released, so they released the original SpongeBob SquarePants movie, the classic,
oh yeah, yeah,
the one that's a work of comedic genius, not the 3D animated whatever they have now. Um, and then there was like 2 or 3 still good seasons after that, and then from there it just went to some really weird and dark places, like, and it makes you wonder why they made that decision.
probably just running out of ideas.
Yeah, well, yeah, and there's that too, and but also I can't, just thinking about that, it begs the question then, okay, well, Jake, you're going to criticize them for making just really weird shit for no reason. Like, why do you do that? It's like, uh, uh, uh I don't, reasons I like it. I don't
Yeah,
know. And that's one thing that I've had to come to terms with my art is, how strange and, surreal and macabre and dark it can be. And, sometimes grotesque even. And, um, giving it multiple tags that can make it less than approachable to certain people.
yeah,
And I don't mind that so much. My own mom, who was an artist, an art major herself, definitely has commented more than once on the sometimes disturbing nature of my artwork. But honestly, I don't see it that way. I've kind of followed the philosophy of beauty and death and darkness. Not to be like an edge lord about it or anything, but there is um, a beauty that goes into the creation of that and in the appreciation and the just raw expression of it.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely raw, definitely. Because I'm looking at it, and I see that you do a lot of like not human. I
Hmm.
mean, you have some humanoids, but like,
Yeah, humanoid. It's important distinction there. Yeah.
yeah. But like, how do you come up with like these inspirations? Like, I mean, one you have like a head sticking out of like some pipes and
Yeah,
something. Like, how
yeah, I
do
know
you?
the one you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah, um, I mean, I got to be honest. So many people ask me that. It's like, where do you get your ideas? And I was like, I don't know. They just kind of come to me. And what surprises some people is that my artwork, much like my comedy that I used to do at UNT, is very very improvised. It's very on the fly. There's very few pieces that I go into with a set idea in mind. Like there most of the time I don't even go in with like a general impression. Like so much of my of those some of those ink doodles especially is just I just start scribbling on the page. I literally just put pen to paper and I just let it flow for a little bit, and then my brain automatically starts filling in spaces, connecting. It sees patterns, it sees shapes, it attaches value to them. It's like, oh, this kind of looks like a carapace of like a rhino sort of looking thing, and then the idea develops just from those original scribbles. And of course, the danger of that is that if you don't know what if you're not planning out the piece in the first place, it's very easy to go astray and have lines be where they shouldn't, and it doesn't look as good. It's not professional. It's messy. But as I said before, that's kind of part of my style, and it's something I'm not totally like ashamed of. Um, but yeah, so many people say, "Where do you get these ideas from?" I'm literally just breathing um, definition into these concepts that are building themselves. It's not something I see a lot of other artists do, and it's a facet that's really helped me become confident and content with the type of art that I do, um, because it's just you know, you ever heard the concept like you know, like a marble block, like the statue's in there and you're trying to free it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's so much like that. Like it's there, the concept is all there, but I'm not in touch with it. I'm just kind of discovering it. I'm discovering the piece as I'm making it. It's very very what's the phrase? Flow of thought. No, stream consciousness. Very very much stream of consciousness.
They had a SpongeBob episode on that too. Found out the Squidward.
Yes, yeah. Oh yeah. Which was that one of the later ones, or refresh my memory?
It was a long time ago, but it was the one where they had like the marble box and like Squidward was like being an artist.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, no, it's very much like that, where SpongeBob just taps it
Yeah,
and taps the block, and like suddenly, you know, the perfect copy of Adonis suddenly pops out.
that's funny. You know, because you're talking about how you improvise, and I was thinking, it reminds me of like when you like finish a test like early and everyone else hasn't finished yet, so you're like, oh, well, it'd be awkward if I pick it up there, so you start throwing it in the back of the test, sketching
Yeah.
something.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah. No. Definitely. A lot of my doodles and practice came from there. I had quite a few college TAs who were markedly surprised to see these ink, you know, yes, what they felt were masterpieces for me were just doodles on the, you know, on the back of some of these like bio quizzes. You know, people that they're not used to seeing that kind of stuff on their papers, and my math teachers just got to see a lot of the same. And it, you know, and that I had a tutor once back in early high school who commented on it such, and she said that, you know, boredom, you know, breeds creativity, and that's why when you see doodles on a page of a class that, you know, a kid is either way advanced in or is struggling with, that's where that level of boredom, you know, manifests itself in that creativity. And she said, you know, and that's not to say that, you know, the kid's stupid or easily distracted or has their head in the clouds. It means it's actually a sign of intelligence. You know, to when you're expressing boredom in the form of creativity. And you know, I was kind of tried to internalize that, because, you know, some teachers were cool about it and they're like, oh man, Jake, I love these little doodles you do. Still do your work. You know, you barely got a 70. But and then
Yeah.
other ones were just like, what is this, Jake? You need to be focusing. Like, you know, you're much more serious about it. And of course, being any kind of artist in a non-traditional, non-conformative sense is going to not harbor illicit mixed reactions.
So, based on that, you said the creativity comes out of boredom. That's actually like makes a lot of sense thinking about it now. How you know you get bored and you're trying to pass the time and you just come up with like the best stuff. Like that's how I came up with the podcast name.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. It's I mean, you know, they say the idle hands are the devil's workshop.
Oh wow, yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
see that.
Well, I mean, not to say that, you know, either of our work is the work of the devil, but, you know, it expresses the point. It's, you know, it's boredom bears its own fruit.
Yes. Um. So you did some landscapes. I see. That's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit different than what you usually do. Is something that you like to do with landscapes?
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, obviously you can see that most of my subjects that I come up with are humanoid. A lot of them are portraits, but even more of them are just generally organic in nature.
Yeah.
And you could probably discern from that, you know, my love of anatomy and animal physiology, and, you know, that kind of branches into my background in biology and science and, you know, animal husbandry back when I worked at the zoo for so many years. And so that level of influence is, I think, is very obvious in the kind of work that I produce. Landscapes are a little bit of a outlier there. I couldn't necessarily tell you why I enjoy doing them. But I do, and it's a distinct. I've done enough of them now to know that it is a trend within my preference of stuff to make. And you can see, probably looking at the account, that I've got a few ink ones, which are harder to do. And then there's some watercolor ones, which are also hard to do because I suck at watercolor. And then I was inspired by people who made like ink landscapes. They created the original landscape in ink and then they filled it in with watercolor. That style kind of really stuck with me because it played to my strengths of already knowing how to use ink really well. And then it kind of helps me counteract what my teacher used to reprimand me for in art school. Is like, she always got on to me because I like when it came to color, I always like to color in really distinct like sections. And she said, it's not a a coloring page, Jake. You have to blend the colors. I'm just young. I don't know how. I can't. And so doing ink like that does something that, it doesn't completely remove that problem, but it makes it easier. And then, with the watercolor, it kind of helps you focus on where the colors really do need to be bold and what have you, and help kind of keep the colors segregated so they don't bleed together, which has been a problem for me. And I've gotten better at it practicing it, but anything from just alien foreign landscapes, ones that are completely from my imagination, to replicating scenes in real life. So if you look at those watercolors, it's actually a set of 3. And I did that, I wanted it to be a set of 3. First one was actually a recreation of a art piece that I saw in a art shop in Denton Square. And I saw this lady, she'd been a naturalist for years and years and years, and she was born in like 1920 something. And then I think most of her work was made in the 40s. So she was working around kind of Depression to World War II area, all the way through to the 60s, I think. And I wish I could remember her name. I believe her artwork is posted in that same post where I put my replica.
Yeah, you said it was by Kay Bryant.
Did it say who was in it?
Yeah, by Texas artist Kay Bryant.
Yes, that's her. Yes, definitely. Yeah, I wanted to give her a shout out if I could. Posthumously, of course. I don't believe she's around anymore, but I noticed how she took that kind of ink landscape and filled it in with watercolor, and seeing how well she did it, and it's such a nice, pleasant piece.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to replicate it as a means of experimenting with that style myself and seeing how well it worked for me. And it wasn't perfect, but it worked well enough. I was like, okay, I can kind of mess around. And then the next watercolor you'll see is it's a island with a large kind of rock outcropping in the center. It's not great, but that one is completely from my imagination. I drew it up. I think most of that was improvised. I don't think I like penciled it in very much, like at all. And it came out okay. And then the third one was a life piece from a photograph that I took from a pond near where my parents live that I'm really fond of. And so I took that at that park and recreated it to the best of my ability. Again, still not great, but it was an indicator of massive strides in these aspects of art that I still really struggle with. Controlling the watercolor and giving natural definition with a really, really cut and dry medium as ink. Ink is extremely permanent, like in case that wasn't obvious, but the mistakes you make are pretty permanent, and so you have to work with that. That's part of the improvisation. And so instead, letting be free flow was in with my normal pieces, I have to be much more careful and concerted and precise with where I put the ink in those pre-planned pieces. But that's a good thing, because I need to push myself as an artist. Otherwise, it all becomes stale. It all looks the same. You don't branch out. You don't grow.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot about like early Japanese anime, because I think they used those kind of colors.
I take that as another compliment, because I'm actually a huge fan of early 80s style, like anime and general '80s animation, that whole art style. Like I mean, like the original Transformers movie.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh man, that gets my goat. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Just love it. Yeah, no. So I actually know exactly what you're talking about when you say that. Yeah.
Do you ever think about doing animation?
Oh, no, no, no. It's I no, I just don't have the patience.
Oh
I
yeah,
I did have a brief period of time when I was a kid. I was into claymation, and the 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 proof is in the pudding that I did not have the patience for it. It's such a meticulous craft. And I mean, animations, you can be a little more, give it a little more leeway, especially with all the programs and the digital stuff these days. But
yeah,
I'm old school. I prefer working on, physical medium most of the time. And that doesn't really bear itself to being in any way productive to producing animation at the level that people want it to be produced these days. It just, yeah, I don't know. I never gave it any serious consideration.
gotcha.
That's a good question, though. I never really thought about that seriously.
'Cause it was definitely reminded me of anime, so I was like, dang, you can animate that? Wow, that would be pretty cool to see. But
Oh, you're talking. Are you referring to yourself or some of my pieces?
oh, yeah, it's your pieces. I'm saying, wow, that's really cool. If you animate it, that'd be awesome to see too. As I was
Oh,
saying,
like some of the humanoids or some of the alien creatures. Yeah,
yes, and the landscapes and all
yeah,
that. Oh,
yeah. It says yeah. Oh, the landscapes would be kind of nice. I that I, that also ties into something else that I struggle with as an artist. Part of I would part of what sets me makes me a good artist and not a great one is the fact that I'm impatient. I don't like to sit down and plan ahead and things like that. I also don't like doing my pieces the same pieces over and over again. Like I don't generally like doing studies of the same subject a lot of times. Well, for one thing, because they don't ever seem to really come out the same way a second time. Like if I do it from a different angle, or if I approach it in a different light. Or if I'm trying to even just define it, it's like I usually don't have the patience to do that, and that's just necessary for animation because you have to draw the same damn thing so many times.
yeah, I'm noticing because when you're copying uh Kay Bryant's painting, um, I say that yours have more like a roundish feel to it than about hers. I can't really explain it because I'm not an artist myself, but
Mm-hmm.
looking at
Mm-hmm.
it, it's a little bit more cartoony compared to. So you like you said, like you're not really when you do something at the second time, or like you're copying something, you have kind of like that inconsistency, right? Is that what he's saying?
Inconsistency, like if I try to do the same piece twice, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think part of what that stems from is just the fact that some of my pieces are so improvised. It's hard to capture that same kind of creative spark again for the same subject. You
yeah,
know, because some of those aliens, they were, like I said, they were not pre-planned at all. They were completely off the cuff. Some of them better than others. Better off for it. Some of them turned out super well just purely by accident. Other ones are they're okay, but there's like a couple lines here and there that kind of make them look like kind of dopier than I really would have liked, or whatever. Um, but still, they were very much a product of the creativity in that particular moment in time, and it's in my experience, it's a very difficult thing to replicate. I'm not saying it can't be, and that's not. I have done it before. It's just, uh, again, not something I have a whole lot of patience for. That's the key factor here. I'm just
yeah.
lazy.
Hey, we are.
Yeah.
um, I noticed that one of them, the drawings had like a martini in it, or
Oh
a
yeah. For
margarita.
whatever reason, I have a fixation with drawing aliens at bars. There's I think a couple like two, at least two or three pieces on the Instagram that have to deal with just aliens or just general creatures like at bars or drinking alcohol. Um, and then I know I have more that were less formal that I just haven't posted or probably won't just because they don't look as good. But yeah, that's definitely been a recurring theme. And I think it's funny that you actually caught on to that.
Yeah, I'm just going through your stuff while you're talking. I'm just like, wow, wow. Didn't
Yeah,
notice
yeah.
that. Well, yeah, yeah. Definitely, like, the mindset you go in here is definitely improvising and coming up whatever goes to flow. Yeah. I noticed,
And I mean,
oh, yeah.
I was just gonna say, and I think you can probably take that as an indication of kind of how my mind works and the things that generally occupy my imagination and my interest. It's like if you produce a bunch of things off the cuff and there's general trends among them, it's probably pretty indicative of what that person is into.
Yeah. I feel like it's a
Sorry.
lot of Star Wars kind of thing. Like the
Yeah, no,
cantina.
yeah. No, that definitely evokes kind of something with me, growing up watching those movies and um, kind of being just carried away with whole intergalactic civilization and the kind of like the social scene of that and um, having like a mixed species kind of bar. And I think it's almost humanizing in a way because you've got all these people with these individual stories, and some of them are just depressed drunkards, and some of them are having interpersonal conflicts with maybe somebody at the bar or maybe somebody who isn't there. They're there for all these various reasons. But I think that creating that element in science fiction is what kind of brings it back around and makes it relatable to people, and that's how you attach to it. Is because that's a very human, it's a very anthropomorphic kind of concept and experience, and not necessarily something that would be seen in real life. But if you're going to make something so outlandish as to suggest that thousands of species all interact with each other in a galaxy together like that, and they have these common social spaces, it makes such a ludicrous and difficult to grasp concept much more um, humanizing, to give it such a human kind of element as people being drunk and angsty in a bar.
Yeah, like I noticed that there's a lot of like human elements that you, no matter what kind of creature you're doing, there is still a little bit of a human element. Whether it be like the dragon, you still kind of has like a kind of like, I guess, a cutie face or something, cutesy face. I wouldn't
Yeah,
say.
well, yeah, expression.
Yeah,
That's yeah, expression. I definitely that's one of the most important things for me is in any piece is find the expression. It's like even if it's a polygonal, like interdimensional, like uh stone droid. I don't know. It's still what is it? What How does it present itself? How does it what feeling does it evoke?
So how did you get into art in the first place? Unless I already asked that, because we kind of got
I
off.
sorry. What was your question?
Like, how did you get into art in the first place?
Well, I mentioned that my mom was an art major, and my dad was too. That's how they met. And so I was just raised around it as a kid, and so my mom always encouraged me. She did two things for me that will forever shape my life and my development as a kid. She took me into science museums all the time, and she worked with me on art all the time. Not like like lessons or anything, but just doing it with me, and giving me all these supplies to be creative in my own way, just enabling it basically. And just being in that environment of these creative minds, and being encouraged to express myself in whatever way I saw fit. That's really where it came from. And I mean, I've been keeping uh, sketchbooks. My mom bought the first few, more than the first few for me. I think she gave me my first like real sketchbook that I like ended up keeping at like, I don't know, like 6 years old. I still have that sketchbook. I have an entire drawer in my apartment with well over, like, it's like 15 or 16 sketchbooks from that I've filled out from all throughout my life. Ever since that first one. And I mean, my mom also kept art from before then, like crayon doodle, just basic kitty scribbles. But it's always, art has always been just so present in my life. It's such a fundamental thing that it's there was no point in my life where I just started doing art. Certainly none that I can remember. It's just always been there.
Just enjoying some Dr. Pepper here. Go Texas. Anyway, we are self-sponsoring this episode. go to shop.spreadshirt.com/ropetreeproductions for awesome merch. We got t-shirts with various designs. All profits during the COVID-19 pandemic will go to the Central Texas Food Bank. If you don't want to support us, we got a neutral design called Fook, which is Vietnamese for lucky and blessings. That way you can still support a great cause while looking stylish and ready for anything that may come. Again, that is shop.spreadshirt.com/ropetreeproductions. Thank y'all. Now back to the episode. Do you think honest expression is something that is important when you're doing art?
Honest expression?
Yes.
I think. Well, that depends on what you mean in terms of expression. Like you can take that in one way, expression of yourself, like as what you're feeling as an artist, and then other ways there you evoke a specific like a predetermined expression, and that's one of the few things that kind of I'll go into something with is I want to capture a specific feeling, like so like some of my portraits. Like I don't know if I have the yelling sergeant looking dude on there. I think. And there's another one where it's kind of like he's got like a little beak nose, but he's like it's like the embodiment of there's faces of just yelling and anger and but like almost like a comic sense, like a drill sergeant yelling at you to the point where it's just funny. I had that emotion in my head one day, and I wanted to capture that. And while the piece itself was improvised, the emotion was kind of what I went into it, and that's what shaped it, and that's what I was trying to capture. So it's like capturing a fleeting, specific sensation or a feeling or emotion or a situation. And then there's other faces where it's like concern or drunkenness or a specific element of sadness, and some of them comical, some of them not. And there's even one where it's like I had the thing in mind where as I started drawing, it's like, man, this is making me think of a dude that you just want to like punch in the face. and I drew the whole piece around that. And it's like, it's the one where the guy's sitting in the chair. He's got like watches on like both wrists. He's like an alien. He's got his hair that's sticking out like 3 feet in front of his face, and he's like, "Can't touch this, baby." And the caption I ended up putting on that piece is like, "Man, I hate that guy."
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Wow.
Yeah. And it's just, it's capturing that sort of vocation. And that's for me, that's one means of being honest about expression is, and that's interesting because that plays into the surrealism. Obviously, those faces that I made to capture those expressions, they're not like realistically proportionate, right? Yeah, they're not realistic. They don't look real, but that's not the point of them. It's kind of like the concept of art uses lies to tell the truth. It expresses it in a non-realistic way to make the realistic point, to capture that realistic emotion. Because we've all met somebody whose face we just wanted to punch inward. We've all met the guy who's just yelling for no reason. We've all seen the person who's just their sadness is just sitting there on their face like icing. That's not the best metaphor I could come up with. But you get my point. And the other form of honest expression, and I think this is more kind of what you had in mind when you asked, was expression of yourself, the artist. And that for me, that's a little more difficult because I've tried at times, like in moments of where I just like I'm so sad about something, or I'm feeling such a strong emotion, and I've tried to capture it myself in art. Like it's like I need to try and draw this out or something. I've had that impulse multiple times throughout my life, and I've done it with mixed success. I would say the ones that have been the most successful in capturing and expressing it are really personalized to the point where I don't think other people really would get it, because it's a very specific way that I picture that experience in my mind. And 2, they tend to be really poor quality or just dumb or corny drawings where it's like it doesn't mean anything to anybody else. It doesn't look good. It doesn't feel good. It's just kind of an ugly sort of thing. And I mean, you can take that in some right. It's like, oh, human emotions are ugly. It doesn't mean they're valuable. It's real, and you could look at it that way, I guess. But it's not. I don't know. It's not something that I feel is. It's not what I was going for. It's not something I would want to share. I just don't think it's good. So I think it's hard for me to be honest in that sort of expression. Other artists I've seen do that really well. I've seen there was a Pixar animator who actually did a series of very beautiful pieces capturing different elements of him and his two daughters trying to reconcile with the fact that his wife passed from illness. She was taken too early, and he created dozens of pieces capturing all these individual kind of little elements and emotions, the little victories, the little failures, and just the sad moments. And I laud people who can do artists who can do that, because I've just never been able to do anything like that. My expression is very different, and it captures a very unique essence of expression, but never that one.
Yeah, honest expression. Yeah, you said there was like two ways to kind of think about it. That actually makes a lot more sense. Thinking, because you had like those feelings that you came up with, kind of just came up, and you kind of want to put on paper, and then what you're feeling, and then
Yes.
you have difficulty
Yeah.
doing that. Yeah, I do admire people being able to do that, because it is a hard thing to do. I'm trying to write a script, and then you're like, well, about like my depression, or write a script about that. It's hard to really have that cathartic feeling with it, that you could be able to put it in the pages, in the words, in the action.
It's hard. Yeah, I think, and I think I've experienced what you're kind of talking about, and it's difficult to do it without just sounding corny. That might just be my thing. It's
Yes, yeah.
yeah.
Definitely, like when I'm writing, it's the dialogue. But yes, yeah.
And you have to be careful about that, because there is a very, very well explored and proven kind of mental trap where you're always just not gonna sound good to yourself. And that's the thing with singing is and as I've been learning to sing over the past few years, and more recently I've been doing a little more intense training with it, is you're going to sound bad to yourself. Get over it and just continue to produce stuff anyway. Now, that's not to say that stuff can't still sound really corny, but I think if you are conscious of that possibility and you balance it with still trying to produce something anyway, then it's going to be something that's actually worthwhile, and it's not going to be like this awful sort of thing, and that's what's going to make people accept it more easily, is if you're being honest about it, but it's you're still going for it anyway.
Yeah. So like kind of that mindset, like the Mamba mindset, Oh, I'm probably, like Kobe Bryant and all that. It's kind of being able to, I guess, be consistent in a way. Because I see you're already consistent. How do you post that consistency?
How do I post consistently?
Yeah, no. How do you like approach it?
Approach it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is it's like, the pieces that I post, like on the Instagram, for example, are, they all follow that similar style. But what I don't think a lot of people realize is some of those are pieces that are more recent, and other ones are like way older that I dug up, because I'm trying to create kind of like a general gallery of all my work. But I'm assuming you probably meant more in terms of consistency of style, or like just subject.
Yes, yeah, style.
Yeah, style. Okay, well, that was something that I kind of came into. I think I really kind of sealed the deal on it, like in kind of the window from senior year of high school to like the end of freshman year of college. Kind of in that 2-year window is when I really started taking pen and just improvising and doodling with pen rather than pencil. That was the crux of it, was moving away from using pencil. I had a really strong charcoal phase actually, and I really still like working with charcoal once in a blue moon. But pen, I don't know. I think it's what I just had on hand at the time. Like if I was in classes and stuff and I was bored and I just had my sketchbook, it was less messy for one thing, and I liked how bold the designs were and the technique and everything. So I just started doodling with pens like pilot point pens, like just those black ink. So nice. And uh, as I continued to do that, that became my habit, was just to doodle with pens, and I kind of dropped pencils almost entirely. And when you do that enough, you kind of figure out the ways that you like to do things. You figure out how to achieve specific effects that are not uh, they're not directly easy for whatever medium you're using. Like pen is good for some things and not great for others, but you kind of learn how to work around some of those limitations and how to produce little effects and little personal techniques that help you kind of counteract those limitations. And you grow into the medium, and it comes to define your art style. And that's what happened in my case, is those doodles became the way that I produce the vast majority of my art now. And to this day, I still prefer pen over anything else. And you kind of experiment with different pens, different types of pens after a certain point, different subjects and styles, and you're constantly adding and evolving it. But once I really started dealing with those pens, I liked the cross hatching to add shadow and value. I liked um, creating all these creases and little details, and letting the pen kind of do its own janky little thing where it wasn't always like consistently on the paper, and it kind of like would lift off and interact with the paper, and it might smear sometimes in weird ways. And I liked that. I liked that it had kind of this organic element in what is generally regarded as a very, very strong, uncompromising medium. It's paint ink. It's permanent, and a lot of people are so scared to try and produce anything just off the bat with it. But when you fly with it like that, and you kind of break that barrier for yourself, it's for me, it became much easier just to do that all the time. And so you learn to live with the mistakes, and they actually become part of the art style. And so that messy, scratchy, uh, completely improvised sort of style, just because I did it so many times and because I kind of fell in love with the mentality of it, is how my style kind of came to be. And when I realized that style had, kind of made itself concrete, and I actually found it hard to go back to other styles. Like going back, the pencil, I held it in my hand with like two fingers to like, which made with graphite. It I had to like kind of reteach myself how to do other stuff. But once I realized that style was kind of what I become, it's like, this is mine. It's not perfect, but it's mine. I don't see a lot of other people who do it, certainly not in the way that I do it, and it makes me happy and feel fulfilled. And so that it became my own. That's kind of how I came into it, was just practicing it that way, just sort of out of convenience, and I ended up falling in love with it.
What would you say to people who they like to draw, they have a passion for it, but they're kind of hesitant to putting it out there?
Like in terms of publishing their work?
Yes, like put on Instagram and all that.
Man, I'll say that I don't post my artwork thinking that it's gonna get like a whole ton of attention. Like, I mean, I could sit there and I could hashtag the living daylights out of them, which I do to an extent, but I don't hound people to like give me follows and spread the word about my page. I don't pay for advertisements. I don't do any. I post it just because I like making it, and hey, if other people like it too, then I want to make sure that they can see as much of it as I can make available. That's my mentality behind it. And I think that's a healthier way to approach it than just kind of like just trying to get my stuff out there. And some people are trying to do that. Everybody has a different kind of motive for their art and what they expect to get out of it. If you're debating whether to post your art, just do it. And it may be good, it may not be good, doesn't matter. The right people are going to support it, and you're going to see the feedback from it. You're going to see how much people like it, and you're going to feel, well, first off, you're going to break that barrier of, should I post it? What if I embarrass myself? You're not going to embarrass yourself. No, very rarely does anybody just take the time to be like, your artwork is garbage. That doesn't happen. Even with my most terrible pieces that I've posted online, nobody's ever just been like, your art is garbage. That's never happened to me. There was definitely some pieces I posted like on Facebook or whatever over the years, or just shown to people in person, where they definitely could have like torn it to pieces, verbally, but they didn't. You might also not get praise either. That's kind of the other, that's the other side of the same coin. Is it's like other people may not take time to show you how much they like it, but that's okay. If you're doing your art for anybody other than yourself in the first place, then you're doing it. So if you want to share it with other people, just to share it and share your enjoyment of it, and because you've seen some other people that have asked you to share it because they enjoy it enough to want to see more of it, then just put it out there, and you can always remove it later. It's not like incriminating. Your art. You're not going to have an employer who's like, well, you're really qualified, but we were doing some background digging on you. We found an old Instagram post that you thought you deleted. Ha! Guess again. These doodles, they're garbage. You don't get the job. That's never going to happen. That's and I think people have kind of like that irrational fear surrounding it. Just do it. I mean, there's nothing terrible that's going to come from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you approach commissions?
Oh, well, it's funny you mentioned that, because first off, I don't get a lot of commissions, or at least not a lot of serious ones. I've had people ask me to design album covers, or like posters for their bands. Like, do a poster for my band, man. And you can guess how consistent that panned out. And I do the pieces. Yeah, I don't get serious inquiries very often. So when I am asked them, I do take the time to do them seriously. I've been asked to design a handful of tattoos. I've done tattoos on people, like by hand, like stick and poke. I've done them.
Oh, really? Wow.
Which, you think just doodling with pen is scary because of the permanence. Try poking that ink into someone's skin for the rest of their life.
I can never do it. I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna mess up, guys.
That's one of those instances where I definitely like, okay, Jake, I know you want to be lazy about this. Don't.
Oh yeah.
But as far as commissions go, I always go through with it. Now, what I found is that it's the people who originally you are, and that's okay, because if nothing else, you've got to practice. And in my case, I got to practice like actually trying to focus on something concerted and pre-planned. I had a friend of mine in Denton, dear friend of mine, who she actually did one of the those stick and poke tattoos on her, and she asked me to design a more complicated tattoo for her, so like a genuine tattoo artist could take it and use it as inspiration to do the final piece on her. And I took months and months with it, on and off, because I was working and doing teaching TNT program stuff at the time. But I did eventually finish it, and I showed her progress along the way, and she's always, she seemed to be into it. She liked the design, and she was, satisfied with it. And then I messaged like, okay, after I showed her the final kind of draft, and it was done, basically like it was ready to be, cleaned up and put into skin by a tattoo artist. And I was like, okay, just when do you want to get the piece? And never heard from her again after that. And that's gonna happen. That kind of thing has happened to me more than once. And that's kind of a reality of it, especially if you're like me, where you're just very informal with your art, and it's not any kind of like professional sort of thing you do. It's just like kind of, it's a passion. It's a passion project and a hobby. That's going to happen. But don't let that discourage you if you're trying to be serious about it, because if you're on the path to become serious about your art, like in any kind of professional manner, then you're already going to be networking yourself, hopefully, with the type of people that are going to be um, serious about their inquiries and their commissions. And then, if they're any kind of person who's not an asshole, they're gonna spread the word, and if somebody asks about you, they're gonna recommend you, so on and so forth. For me, it doesn't matter as much, just because it's not professional for me. So it's like, okay, well, wasted a month on this piece, but whatever, it's still a cool piece, and that's the end of it for me.
So commissions. You said you do a lot of for bands and stuff.
Here and there, I've done some, yes.
Uh, is it actually like actual albums they have, or?
Well, if the guitarist for the band that I made a poster for hadn't been sent to jail, then they might have used that as an actual album cover or poster. But because that happened, the band actually never panned out to be a real band. So I can't recommend any albums. If I had done work for anybody who actually had produced work that I'm comfortable, purporting, then I would 100%, give them a shout out. But there's actually not anybody who's been concrete enough working with me to be at that point.
Hey, I know Radio War. Do you know Radio War?
Say what now?
Do you know Radio War, the band?
Radio War. I do not. I'm not familiar with them.
Oh yeah, that's my friend Gothic band, and I'll definitely give you the contact info, and maybe you can do something there. Little collab with them.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, and that's what I would say for anybody who is interested in my art, or or if you are an artist that wants, that potentially wants to fish for commissions, is have your stuff, kind of have a portfolio, right? And that's kind of what my Instagram is. So what I would say to you then is first off, ask them if they're actually looking for some art to be done, because if there's no art to be done, then it's kind of just like trying to fill a void where there is none. It's, there's just no need for it. Yeah. But it's like, definitely, like, if you ask them, they hey, would you guys like some art? It's like, even if it's a maybe, it's like, okay, well, here, check out this guy's, Instagram, like, this kind of his portfolio. This is the type of work that he does. And then that's how you want, as an artist, your stuff to be passed on, is you want them to kind of, be able to get like a whole sweep of the type of work that you do, because you don't want to be rolled into a commission with somebody who ultimately isn't down for your style, and you've wasted time, they've wasted time on you, and when it didn't have to be like any hard feeling kind of thing, it just wasn't what they weren't looking for. So what I would say to you, Ben, is if you want to show my stuff, then please do, 100%. And if they are down for it, then you can, obviously they have the Instagram that they're looking at, and they can message me through that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I got some bands, so I'll hit them all up and stuff like that, and yeah, I hope you're up that way. Mm-hmm. Have some fun with it.
Yes, please, by all means, share the Instagram away, spread the word.
Yeah, I mean, you do a great job. Like, I really love the art.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If I didn't say it before, I'm extremely flattered that, you thought, my stuff was worthy of bringing me on and talking about it, because, it's, some people ask me about it, but it's usually just a question here or there. I don't think there's any one concerted place where I have an explanation for all the different aspects of my art and why I do what I do.
It's interesting. Like, it's interesting to me talking to people that I admire and what they create and stuff. Like, it's just interesting to me what their mindset is and how they get there. And it's one of the reasons why I made this podcast, is really just dive deep as much as I can.
Yeah. No, and I saw the podcast you had with was it Oinky Bob, was it?
Oh yeah.
What was it? Was that his name, or was it something else?
It's Oinky Bob, yeah.
Yeah, Oinky Bob. Yeah. And you kind of were just talking about just like, it's just a passion project for that guy. And I think he said he had like some other career, but he just did this on the side. And my art is the same way, and that's what I always try to tell people. They're like, oh, why aren't you a professional artist? I can't be an artist because I'm doing this other thing. No, neither of those things are true. Just because you've got a career in something does not mean that you can't have these personal passions still be a incredibly important part of life. Like, I mean, for example, my career is in science education, right? That's pretty cut and dry, and it's responsible. I'm contributing to society. It's a real job. It's not just some liberal arts BS. I'm having a tangible effect on the world. But that's not to say I can't have the art on the side. Like, I can't even imagine my life without art on the side. And that's exactly where I want it. I don't want my art to be my career either. If nothing else, I don't have the patience for it. I'm just not good enough for it, but I still love doing it in the capacity that I do. And I think that's what so many people get wrong about liberal art degrees. And I think that's what people get wrong about, being creative in their life. It's like, oh, well, I'm, this hard cut kind of guy that has this career. There's no room in my life to be creative. Wrong. Being creative is a natural element of existing, of being human. It's part of the human experience, and it definitely does not have to define you. And then, alternatively, just because you're really, really good at art, doesn't mean you have to subject yourself to, going through this art degree and then being a starving artist. And some people can be really successful and industrious with their art. Others we've seen not so much. And that's kind of what that mindset was like. You don't have to be an artist professionally. You don't even have to be a good artist as a whole to just enjoy it and let it be a part of your life. And that ties into something Kurt Vonnegut said. I'm going to look it up because I don't want to say it wrong. He mentions something about just making for the sake of creating for the sake of creating, because it is part of the human experience.
Don't you hate when that happens? You're trying to look for something.
I know. It's like I'm sitting. It's like, why Kurt Vonnegut? Why do you have to be cool and have so many quotes? Here it is. Okay. Kurt Vonnegut. Go into the arts. I'm not kidding. The arts are not a way to make a living. See, that's important. It's not a way to make a living. It does not have to be your career. It can still be your passion. It can still be. I can't imagine my life, like I said, without my art. But it's not my career, right? It's an integral part. There's more to your life. Your life is more multifaceted. It's more multidimensional than that. It's more complicated. Arts are not a way to make a living. They are a very human way of making life more bearable. Practicing an art, no matter how well or badly, is a way to make your soul grow. For heaven's sake, sing in the shower, dance to the radio, tell stories, write a poem to a friend, even a lousy poem. Do it as well as you possibly can. You will get an enormous reward. You will have created something.
Man, that's a drop the mic right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's very very hopeful message too.
Yeah, no, and if there was anything I wish people would take away from me and how I do my art, and they're like, oh, I'm so bad at art. No, it's practice. You're not born with talent. You might have a predisposition, but talent doesn't mean jack all if you don't practice it. I certainly didn't wake up learning how to do this. I did it so much, and I promise if you sit and you draw the same type of thing and you try to develop your style 100 times over, you're gonna come up with something. I promise you. All those sketchbooks, all those years of work, that's how I got to where I am. And I'm still not great. I would say I'm pretty good, but I'm not one of the greats, and I don't feel the necessity to be. That's not the point.
Yeah.
Just do it because you want to, and it doesn't mean that like good old Vonnegut himself said, the arts are not a way to make a living.
Yeah, that's a really good. I would say that a good ending to this episode is just on the happy note. But I want to ask.
I'll leave it on that.
I want to ask though, is there anything else you want to add in before?
I mean, I was just gonna say, if you're listening to this and you want to check out the art, it's Ink Scratch Studios on Instagram. I think the tag is Mancill.artblock. I think that's what I had for it. I forget.
That's it.
Yeah, Mancill.artblock, Mencill. Go check it out if you like it. If you have friends that talking about, oh, I suck at art, stop them right there and say, no, you don't suck. You just need practice. And that's any single time anybody's ever asked me, how are you so good, or like, how do I get better, or I'll never be as good as you. You verbally slap them across the face, lovingly, gently, caressingly, but a slap all the same. And you say, no, you can do it. Anybody can be an artist. You just have to practice it. Okay? That's the ultimate takeaway. That's the biggest thing.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for coming on this podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is super, super wonderful. I'm really looking forward to this.
I'm thinking about making a new podcast, but we talk a little bit normally, then it's just like an interview. So if you want to come on, I'll let you know.
Hey man, yeah, no, I'm all for it. You just hit me up. You know what you got to do.
Awesome. Thanks you guys for listening. And I'll put us all the links in the description below on the YouTube channel. And if you listen on Spotify, go to that YouTube channel. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for listening again. And you guys have a wonderful day. Happy trails.